Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Thưa toàn thể hội chúng, hôm nay là ngày 22 tháng 5 âm.
So now we have the great opportunity to study the Avatamsaka Sutra again. It's chapter 25 and we're going to continue with our study. It says here, thus, to enlightening beings think flexibly, without confusion or delusion, without contradicting, without destroying active causes, dedicating as is appropriate, with clear perception of real truth. They know the inherent nature of things, yet by the power of skill and means they accomplish results of action and reach the other shore. With knowledge and wisdom they examine all things and attain knowledge of spiritual faculties. The virtues of their deeds are carried out without striving, in accordance with their free will. Enlightening beings dedicate roots of goodness in this way because they want to liberate all sentient beings, keep the lineage of the Buddhas unbroken, be forever rid of demonic activity, and see omniscience. Their boundless aspiration is never discarded. They detach from mundane objects and cut off all mixed-up and defilement. They also wish for sentient beings to attain pure knowledge, enter deeply into the techniques of liberation. Well, we see in the paragraph, the above paragraph, the bodhisattvas dedicate so that sentient beings and can, withdraw themselves from the realm of existence and perfect the enlightening activities. And now they continue to teach that once we have reached the realm of perfect truth and have perfected the enlightening activities and are no longer attached to the three worlds, and now the bodhisattvas continue to contemplate without doubts. So in the paragraph prior to that, we are talking about we have already talked about the right view, and now we're talking about the right contemplation. Because once they have the right view, then all the thoughts, all the activities, all the conducts also reach the state of perfect truth. But here they continue to talk about the state of being non-delusion. Only when you no longer are deluded that you are no longer contradicting the Buddha Dharma. When we hear the words not contradicting to the Buddha Dharma, it sounds very simple, right? But do we ourselves live in accordance with the Buddha Dharma? Or are we contradicting the Buddha Dharma? Actually, from the beginning until now, it seems like we are contradicting. Because if there is a method that we think that it is true, if there's a sound that we hear, that our ears listen to, and we feel that the sound is also true, then what did the Buddha say? The Buddha said that it is a sickness, an illness ever since beginningless time until now. This is a terminally ill disease. So until the moment when we no longer need to open our eyes to see everything, to perceive the forms, then that means that we are no longer being attached or being bounded by our bodies or our physical aggregates. So if we haven't yet been able to transcend our physical bodies in order to perceive all the dharmas, all the phenomena, then we are still being erroneous. So for example, if we look at all the forms and all the forms and all the appearances, they are all based on our faculties. And what are our faculties? What are our senses? The faculties and the senses are actually products of our consciousness. And so if we use our consciousness, it means that we are seeing things, we are perceiving things based on our karma and based on conditions. The karma that we produce with our body, with our karma, and all the karmas of the bodies, the karmas of the faculties are already erroneous since the very beginning. So when we look at the forms, that means that the objects and the subjects appear at that moment. And for example, now we see all the forms, and at the same time we do not develop any thought, and we think, oh, we are seeing in the correct way. So when we study the Buddha Dharma ever since the past until now, we think that that is the correct way, but that is not correct, because even though we strive not to let any thoughts arise, but actually it is contradictory with all the dharmas, of all the phenomena, because what is the true size of all objects, of all phenomena, of all appearances? That is sightlessness. So sightlessness is the true sign, the true characteristic of all dharmas. So ever since long ago, if we begin to see all forms as a form, as an appearance, then that is already contradicting to all the phenomena, to all the dharmas. Because if in that very vivid presence, if that dharma, that phenomena, is not exactly that phenomena, then that is the true phenomena. So we're not making fun about this. We're not saying that, oh, this is this, but that is not that, then it is this. It's just like this Diamond Sutra is talking about. But for example, at this moment, if we see something and it's becoming something that is real with us, it's a real Dharma to us, then that cannot be the real Dharma, because it has to be to the point where there's no subject and there's no object. And if there's no subject and object, then it's no longer a Dharma. But at this moment, without subject and object, is it still a Dharma? Yes, because that is an existence. Is an existence a Dharma or not a Dharma? So if we haven't yet transcended our physical bodies, then we don't have the ability to understand this. So even though that existence is no longer dual, is no longer, it's now non-dual, but is it still a Dharma or not a Dharma, a phenomenon or not a phenomena? So in the past, we have heard about this in the Diamond Sutra, but we haven't really analyzed it deeply yet. We're saying that, oh, we see this, but it's not really that, then it's actually exactly that. But when it's no longer it, when that is it, but it's not really it, then what is it then? So throughout the history of the Diamond Sutra, we're saying about that. We say if we see that, but it's not really that, then it is exactly what it is. So then we have to go back to our seeing. If we look at things with our sense faculties, then of course we take it, we perceive it as something real. But if we do not base our seeing on the sense faculties, then would you be able to see it? If you haven't yet transcended your bodies, and you cannot say that yes, you see it without basing your seeing on the sense faculties. So the moment that you still see everything based on a subject and an object, then yes, that is it. It appears as real to you. But let's say if you look at something and you haven't given rise to any thought, then you and the object, there are still two. And then we have to go, to get to the point where you are beyond dualistic, object and subject. So you don't need the object. You don't need the object or the subject to perceive the object anymore. And so it's now non-dual. It's now non-dualistic. So, but then without the subject, then what is it there to actually perceive the object? Don't say that you don't give rise to any thinking. Then that means that you and these object are no longer different. That's just a way of saying it. But the moment when you don't open your eyes, but you can see everything, then is that at that moment, is that still two? So we haven't yet reaches this experience yet, right? So actually in the beginning, if we close our eyes and we are able to perceive all phenomena at that moment, then we still have this karma that kind of brings obstruction to our view. But if you no longer need to be, based on the sense faculties, then you'll be able to actually be non-dual. If you can close your eyes and could see everything, then that means that you have already transcended your sense faculties. You haven't yet entered the nature of the mind yet. So the moment that you close your eyes, but you could see everything, you have already transcended the physical bodies. But it doesn't mean that there's no two. There's still you who can recognize or perceive the objects. So that means that there's still two. And then you become a little more quiescent, and then you can perceive a little more deeply. Then it is no longer this self that is perceiving. You have to go beyond this self in order to truly reach the nature of the mind. So when we transcend our sense faculties, we can see the objects, but they are so radiant, they're so luminous, and we'll be able to see the flower and the sky, and they're so radiant, so luminous, because we have already taken away the dark eye glasses or the color eye glasses that we are wearing. So without the sense faculties, we see something like a flower, then it is still the same color, it is still yellow, but you know, without the eyeglasses, without the different layers of obstructions, without the layers of veils, without the 100 layers of eyeglasses, then we go beyond the knowledge of karmic seeing, of habitual seeing, because the habitual seeing it's something that we have habituated for such a long time, and it has become our knowledge, because that has become a seal, a karmic seal in our mind. So we have to open our eyes in order to see it, because it is now a karmic knowledge. We cannot see with our eyes closed, but once we have removed all the layers of karmic seeing, then we'll be able to see everything so clearly, with clarity, with radiance. And once we are able to transcend this physical body, then we have already removed all the karmic marks, or the karmic habitual tendencies, or the karmic veils of our physical body. At that moment, everything becomes so brilliant, so radiant, and so luminous. But then regarding the idea of having a self looking at an object, that has been already removed once we reach that state of being, and we can see much more clearly, and we feel much more lighter, as if we have already removed the mountains on our shoulders. We are in a state of emptiness, we are in a state of unobstruction, of lightness, but at that moment, it is still our recognition, our own recognition. We have already removed ourselves from the physical body, but we haven't yet reached a state of selflessness yet. So whoever could reach this level of realization, then we can go on talking more in detail. So once we have already removed ourselves from the physical body, then we become a little more clearly, and it is as if we are facing it. But then once we are more quiescent and are deeper in our absorption, then we realize that, oh, it's not really that we are facing it, but we are it feels like all the phenomena appear in our own selves. And then once we are more deeper in our absorption, then it is as if, no, we are actually those phenomena, and right in that form, it is ourselves, and right in the phenomena are actually ourselves. So at that moment, there's no longer an object and a subject. And once we reach there, what are we reaching? So we reach a state of the mind when we are saying in the past that when we see something, that is not really it, but it is really it. So because it is no longer an object that we are looking at, but it is the immersions of our knowing of the reality. But the reality is not really there. And why are we saying that? Because if we're saying that, oh, the reality is here and there's something there, then that is still dualistic. But once the existence is here, then the existing is there. So those are just like little dots that are being connected on a line. So then if we see things in that way, as little dots on a line, then that means that we haven't yet transcended the two extremes. So then we have the first dot, and then 1,000 and 1,000,000 and billions dots on one line. Then that is still dualistic. But when all those countless and millions of dots at that moment, they need to merge into oneness. So even on one line, there are millions of dots, one after another, but you will be able to see all of them, millions of dots without losing any of the dots. It's just like the scientists won't be able to explain about this, because at that moment, our view is so complete, is so whole, is perfectly whole, is perfectly complete. So even if it's on one line, that there are billions of dots lining up on the same line, at that moment, you'll be able to see all the dots appearing at the same time. And it's not that each dot will appear and you will see a billion dots. No, you will see everything as oneness. But it doesn't mean that you will see billions of dots. It's at that moment, it's just simply existing. It's existence. There's no near or far as far as space is concerned, because at that moment, you no longer see an object and you no longer are a subject. So you no longer see the objects, but the objects now emerge with the knowing awareness. So the objects is actually your knowing awareness. So that's why we've talked ever since in the past that this cannot be it in order for it to be truly it. So when we're talking about not being contradictory to the Buddha Dharma, but it's actually very complicated, it's very profound. You have to remove countless layers in order to be able to see that. So we're not talking about multiplicity or singularity. We're not talking about near or far, and everything emerges in the existence of all the existences. So it's now all you have is just the existence of all the existences, but there's no object and there's no more subject. Even all the forms that we used to see in the past, we perceive them, we understand them. But now, all those objects have emerged as the knowing awareness in the vivid moment itself. So ourselves as a subject and the knowing awareness of the existence or the existence themselves are no longer apart from us or separate from us. So if we want to reach the ultimate level, it means that all the existences, whatever they are, wherever they are fully complete, perfectly whole within the whole cosmos. It is not something that a human world, a human brain can actually fathom. So before we're talking about all the countless of dots on one line that are parallel, so we're talking about not near, not far, not multiple, not singular, and then we will reach to a point where all those dots become the existences, themselves as oneness, and they all become knowing awareness, and then they become all the dots become oneness that covers the whole cosmos. So each of those dots is perfectly complete, perfectly whole, and none of those dots would block another dot. For example, from our human mind, we won't be able to understand this, because if one is fully complete, fully whole, and another is fully complete, fully whole, then we're thinking that, oh, one is overseeing the other one, or one is comprising of the other ones, but it's not true, because it's that like every single thing, it's complete, it's pervasive, it immerses in each other, they are very vivid, they are very lively, a flower or a grain of sand, the whole cosmos, the whole sky. So everything is fully complete, but they don't block each other. They immerse in each other, but they're still very different from each other. They become oneness, but they are not. They don't lose their singularity, but they're not. So actually, if you haven't yet reached this state of meditative absorption, then you need to continue to practice, to enter retreat and to practice. So when we're talking about being not contradictory to the Buddha Dharma, then you have to be able to reach that point of absorption. So each and every existence is an existence of perfectly complete, perfectly whole. It means that within this cosmos, even a grain of sand is completely whole. It covers everything. It consists of everything without lacking everything. So I can actually bet on all the scientists. You can use all of your knowledge as a scientist to imagine such a state of the mind. For example, if you put 100 dots on a straight line, and then you face the first dot, would you be able to see all the dots that follow those the first dot? Actually, you cannot. So that's why, with the kind of wisdom that Buddha Dharma is talking about, even if you have a bowl that is turned upside down, you'll be able to see everything under the bowl as you put it upside down. So that is pervasive knowing awareness, perfectly whole, perfectly complete. You can also see something that is, underneath your bottom or under your feet, the soles of your feet, everything. So there was one time when I talked to my Dharma master about it. There was one sentence that I told my Dharma master. I said that, Master, I actually could see everything underneath my soul, the sole of the feet. And then my master said, what are you talking about? How did you see the sole of your feet? And so I realized that I could no longer share with my Dharma masters the state of the mind, or the wisdom mind that could help me to see the sole of the feet. So after that, I no longer felt like I could actually share with my Dharma masters about the realization that I was able to attain. But so that's why when we're talking about the ultimate wisdom, it means that when you are standing on top of the mountain, you will be able to see everything without anything being blocked or anything that you could not see. Even underneath of your soul, of your feet, you'll be able to see it, because now your view, your knowing awareness, your seeing is pervasive. It pervades everywhere. So when we're talking about being non-contradictory to all the dharmas, it means that all the dharmas will emerge as the true sign. And when we're talking about the true signs, it means that it is signlessness. And so all the signlessness, due to the signlessness that all the dharmas appear and emerge. So it means that it covers everything. It covers the whole cosmos. It's not just something very small. It's not just that specific color. So in this state of the mind, so actually once, like we have said, once we have we are able to transcend our physical bodies, and everything will be gold, will be like a gold color. Everything will be so golden. Before we were talking about a leaf, or a vein of the leaf, or a grain of sand. Yes, they are able to comprise the whole cosmos, and they are radiant, and they are luminous, and the golden radiance begin to radiate throughout the cosmos. And the golden color of Buddha, however that is, then all the particles in everything in the cosmos, it's like that. So if you don't see the same color, then it means that you're not in the correct state of the mind, or the correct realization. So if you ask somebody, oh, what color do you see, then by answering that question, we can tell that you're not there yet. You haven't reached that state of the mind, or state of realization yet. Because at that state of the mind, it is truly beyond everything that we have learned and have collect our knowledge on. Our collection in. So regarding the realization, actually you have to be able to truly reach there. Because if you say something and then it's and you listen to it, or someone listen to it, someone who has already attained that realization, then they know that, oh, you haven't yet reached that level yet. So people can say whatever they want, but actually everything has to be perfectly correct, the way it is, the way it is how suchness is. So if somebody said that he has realized, who has realized the Dharma, and said, oh, I reached that state of the mind where I don't see anything. No, if you're saying that you don't see anything at that state of the mind, then that means you haven't yet realized yet. Because once you have realized the nature of the mind, you would be able to see everything, all dharmas, all, the dharmas as minuscule as a grain of sand. If you say that actually before I was very full of defilements, mental defilements, and now I'm completely purified, I'm completely free of all the defilements, and that's not true, because everything would be there for you, and you are able to skillfully whatever you need. If you want to use it according to the wish of a holy being, then you use them in that way. If you want to use them in the way of an ordinary being, then you use it in that way. So all the defilements, all the defilements, actually the vitality, the roots of all the existence in this cosmos, they cannot be touched or affect the nature of the mind. So the nature of the mind cannot be touched by the vitality or the roots of the vitality ever since beginningless time until now. They cannot touch the nature of the mind, but since they are still there, we will be able to use them, to skillfully employ them, so that we can perform or to enter the three worlds. If we need to go to the desire realm, if we need to go to the form realms or the formless realms, and we will be able to skillfully use all of those causes in order for us to travel to those worlds. So as far as the causes and conditions are concerned, if they are completely lost after we practice, then it's not truthful. Actually, not because we continue to renounce them, that they are no longer there. No, actually, the more you renounce, then the more maybe they will become thicker. So then here it is saying that they practice without destroying active causes. So how do we practice so that we can be in a state of being without destroying causes? Well, actually, when you reach that state of the mind, you will be so appalled, you will be in awe, because you think that you already practice, you have practiced, or you have practiced for a long time. You thought that you have, you were able to remove all the defilements or remove all the causes already. But no, all the causes are still there, because they are there. So you'll be able to see through all the past lives, and you will be able to see everything. So somebody who has exerted in their practice, but they haven't yet been able to destroy all the active causes. So does that mean that that person has progressed or not progressed on the path? Well, this is difficult to answer, right? So we still have the karma of loving to sleep, the karma of loving to eat, and the karma of being born. Then we need to chit chat with people. So all those karmas will be still there. But once a person is able to meet with the Dharma or to realize the Dharma, then they have the rights. They have the rights to employ all these causes, so in order to perform their activities. In the past, when we are sad, we would turn on the TV, we would go and listen to the music, or we would do something else. That's in the past. So in now, because they still have these habitual tendencies. For example, they still love to chat. But now, because they also see the truth, pervading the cosmos, so they don't want to use those tendencies anymore. Just like I'm talking about how you can transform sand into gold. Because of this knowledge, you'll be able to understand the karmas of all sentient beings, so that you are able to lead or to cultivate the sentient beings. But if you say that, or you practice, so now you don't have anything, you become so empty, you are no longer being affected by the worldly activities, then that is not truthful. Because one of the names of the Buddhas is someone who is very aware, who has a full knowledge of the mundane world. So how can they see that? It is through their wisdom, and all the karmas of all the beings are all the same. So maybe you think that you are using something good in this lifetime, so we think that they are better than us, but it's not truthful, because all the karmas of all the sentient beings are all the same, without all the times. Nobody is better, or nobody is worse, or nobody is more decent. So if somebody loves to sleep, then they love to sleep. If they want to eat good food, then they would eat good food. And when they have already attained certain realization, they have the choice to make the decision whether they want to continue to sleep more or to eat such and such a thing. So for example, for somebody who has entered the womb, and maybe our mental formation has selected something for us, and that's all we can use. Can use that karma in that lifetime. So don't think that that lady doesn't have the same karma us, because if that lady has the right condition, then she too will be using that. So none of us is better or worse than another being. So actually, Buddhas who have attained enlightenment, they are able to comprehend, to perceive, and to understand all the karmic deeds of all the sentient beings. So actually, but once you have attained realization, attained sainthood, then all those karmic deeds become enlightening deeds. And then when we become Buddhas, then those karmic deeds will become Buddha enlightening beings. So actually, Buddhas know how to use those deeds at the ultimate level. But for us, because right now we are playing the games of the sentient beings, so we're not bored with the karmic deeds of the sentient beings yet, so we only use those deeds of an ordinary person. We're so attached, we're still being so attached to the activities of the worldly realm, because we love to be here, we want to be attached to this world. So we are clinging to this world. We like to stay in this world. We still want to play in this world, in this worldly realm. So don't say that because, oh, you are being stuck in the cycle of life and death, but because you want to continue to travel in the cycle of life and death, and to have fun in it. Until you no longer want to be traveling in the cycle of life and death. You know why? Because you still have all the enlightening qualities of all the Buddhas. Because once the Buddha attained Buddhahood, I'm sure he must be in awe, because he could see that all the sentient beings all have the qualities to become Buddhas. But why are you still being attached to the worldly realm? So that's why the Buddha wanted to travel around the realms to remind us that yes, you have the qualities of Buddhas. If you no longer want to be suffering, then you develop the enlightening beings of Buddhas. So when we're talking about karmic deeds, don't think that we can actually destroy them or make them extinct. Don't think about destroying all the action causes. If we think that everything can be destroyed, nothing exists, then we fall into one extreme. But if we think that everything exists, then we fall into another extreme. So when we talk about the karmic causes, well, we don't know where they are, but the moment somebody poke on us, then we go crazy. But then after we go crazy, temporarily, then maybe later on we can transform and no longer can become crazy. So when we're talking about karma or the karmic causes, karmic deeds, then what? We are able to to lead the karmic causes according to our wish or our aspiration. We can be we can control those karmic causes if we have the wisdom and we have the right view. So once we have the right view and we have a truthful understanding, then they live very differently from us. For somebody who has a little bit of power, a little bit of wealth, for a person who understands the Dharma, we live such a different life than a person who doesn't understand the Dharma. And we can see all of that, right? So for those who don't understand the Dharma and they have the power and they have the wealth, how do they act? They act as if they the sky is no different than just a cover of a pot, and they will try to make troubles to everyone around them. But somebody who has the Dharma, they feel that, they see that all beings and themselves are one and the same, and it is just because at this moment they have to employ such activities in such a life, but that person in the next life, maybe he would employ something else that we are we have to go through. So then if we truly understand the Dharma, we can see that none of the mundane dharmas have already been destroyed. So none of the karmas have been destroyed, because the person who has actually realized something, so then they will go, they will realize that everything within the cosmos, in the sky, on earth, everything, it's still there. And then they will no longer try to affect all the phenomena. They don't try to affect the karmic causes. The karmic causes only appear within certain period of time. So if we live correctly, then we live correctly in the vivid presence. There's no way that we can add something or subtract something from the vivid presence, from the immediate presence. We cannot reject or affirm. So then what is the correct view? The correct view is whatever emerges, whatever appears, it is just as it is. Just like when we are listening to the sounds now, there's no time for us to do anything. Each sound is being received or is being recognized as it is right in that very vivid moment. We cannot remove anything from it. We cannot add anything to it. There's no subtraction, there's no addition. So why? Because all dharmas, all phenomena are completely, perfectly whole, perfectly full. So if we try to draw something up, then everything that we draw up actually are from our perception. So we have to respect the active causes. It means that we do not try to affect all the karmic causes. We do not try to affect all the dharmas or the phenomena. So let's say if we sit and do our practice, and then the thoughts arise, so then we need to also respect them, respect the emotions. We don't think, oh, you are bad thought, you are something that guide me to something else. You guide me so that I continue to go into the realm of samsara, and you make me deluded. I do not like you. So many practitioners or many meditators, if you sit in meditation and you keep saying those kind of things in your mind, then it is actually very tiring. And that's a way that people have taught their students to meditate. But actually, once we get here, the Buddha has taught us that we have to respect everything, even the karmic causes. Why is that so? Because everything is perfectly whole, perfectly complete. Even if we try to do something, nothing will be extinct, because when you say that extinction happens, it just means that it is from our perception. So here it says that we have to see the real truth with clear perception of the real truth. Because if we don't see the real truth, then we feel that, oh, we are clinging to this, we are attached to that, and we affect this, and we affect that, and then we try to change this, and we try to change that. But we should be respectful of all the phenomena, and be respectful of the real truth, so that we do not try to to pull it in this direction and then to pull it in another direction. So once we realize that all dharmas, all phenomena are perfectly complete, perfectly whole, then that means that we reach the realm of real truth. And then next, it says here, we are using the skills, the power of the skills, and it means that they accomplish the results of actions and reach the other shore. This is really very interesting. When they say that to accomplish results of action is to reach the other shore, not to complete or accomplish the action in this worldly realm, in this cyclic existence. So once a person is realized, then all the karmic deeds, all the karmas are primordially empty. That's what we have learned in the past, and we thought that that is already wonderful, right? But here we're not talking about primordially empty anymore, but we're going to be saying that everything is primordially as suchness. So actually, in the past, I used to like the story very much. And there was some student who came and asked the Zen master and say, "Oh, what are the karmic deeds?" The karmic deeds are primordially empty. And then he asked, "Oh, what is primordially emptiness?" And then they say, "Oh, primordial emptiness is a karmic cause, is a karmic deed, because primordially it has already been empty ever since beginningless time until now." So that's the way a Zen master sees everything. A Zen master doesn't see karmic causes as substantial. So then, but now, if we understand that the karmic causes can no longer be destroyed, there's no extinction, then we can ask the Zen master again. Are the karmic causes substantial or insubstantial, existing or non-existing? So, because if you see things as empty, then that is not the correct view, the real truth either. So then actually there are many Chinese masters who haven't yet transcended the three worlds. Maybe 20 of them have actually transcended the three worlds. Well, actually, just like I've told you about that sentence when they say that all karmic causes are primordially empty. So it is something that I used to like very much, and it is a historical sentence that is being used in the Zen sphere of practitioners. So maybe they could see something and they could realize something, but it is not at the level of realization that the Avatamsaka is talking about. So here the Avatamsaka is talking about how all the phenomena are perfectly complete, unceasing, unborn, unceasing. If it is unceasing and unborn, then are they existing or not existing, existing or non-existing? Actually, they exist and they do not exist at the same time. They are existing and non-existing at the same time. And once they are existing and non-existing at the same time, then they are truly existing as they are, as suchness. So when we talk about karmic causes, we are talking about we have to transcend the view, the karmic view, in order to truly understand why the active causes or the karmic retributions are also completely full, completely perfect. So if we want to understand how the dharmas are not contradictory to the dharmas, then we also have to understand the karmic retribution or the karmic actions or the karmic results the same. Everything is perfectly complete, everything is perfectly full. Just like a grain of sand is already perfectly complete, and then you will be able to reach the other shore. Even if you have the power, the spiritual power, but you haven't reached the other shore, then there's no way that you'll be able to see what it is being described in here. So here it says, with knowledge and wisdom, they examine all things and attain knowledge of spiritual faculties. So I don't know why here it is combining knowledge and spiritual faculties together. For example, if you have spiritual faculties and you be able to fly up to the roof, or you fly up to the mountain, what is that? That is just an appearance. An appearance of our physical body, or appearance of the phenomena. But when we're talking about wisdom, the ultimate wisdom is something that is beyond all the knowledges, beyond all the spiritual faculties. This wisdom, this ultimate transcendental wisdom, is it's just beyond time and space. It pervades everything, because as far as mundane activities are concerned, maybe it takes a little bit of time for it to emerge. But here we're talking about ultimate wisdom. it pervades everything. It covers everything. It covers the faculties, the spiritual faculties too. When you're talking about realized wisdom or enlightened wisdom, then the wisdom is the same as the faculty, the same as the spiritual faculties. Because for, let's say if they are here and they want to go to a different realm, then within just one sadhana, they'll be able to reach there. So we talk about the history books, we're talking about within one sadhana, within one thought, then they are able to reach a world, another world. But here we're not talking about throughout the world anymore. We're talking about within one sadhana. You are already there because you are now the same as all the phenomena in all the cosmos. So once you have reached enlightenment, you with your wisdom, you could see that everything in this cosmos, you are there, you are part of it, you are oneness with it. So if you want to reach somewhere and then without a sadhana, then you are already there, then it's still just an appearance. So when we're talking about spiritual faculties, it's still not yet reaching the state of being where you are every single phenomena in the cosmos. That is completely different. So we talk about the spiritual faculties of Moggallana in the past, where he was able to fly up and fly up again, above and above into the different worlds within brief moments. And then he was able to reach a state of a sphere, and then it took him instant moments to reach there, and then he fell into the brim of a cup of someone in that realm. Then no one was aware, or no one knew who this little being is, because they did not know that Moggallana wanted to see the Ushnisha of the Buddha, and then he tried to fly up and up and up, higher and higher in order to reach there. And then he ended up being in such a realm. And then the Buddha said, oh, it is one of my students. He wanted to see the top of my Unisha, so that's why he tried to reach this realm, because he uses his spiritual faculties. So then the Buddha talked to Moggallana. He said, oh, you have reached this realm of mine, and it's very, very far away from the worldly realm. And if you don't, if you want, you won't be able to see me passing parinirvana if you want to go back. So if you want to, you can make prostration to your teacher, and then I will be able to help you to bring you back to the Jambu Vipa. And then Moggallana made prostration to the Buddha, and he was crying. He said, oh, because I was using my spiritual faculties, because I want to see the top of your Ushnisha, so that's why. So actually, with the ability of Moggallana, even with that kind of ability, he would not be able to fly back to his to our world in order to see the Buddha passing into parinirvana. So then he prostrated in front of the Buddha, and within an instant, the Buddha was able to guide him back, or bring him back to the worldly realm. So actually, there was no way that he could use his spiritual abilities, Moggallana's abilities. So Moggallana was not able to use his ability, his spiritual abilities, in order to return to the worldly realm. So we can say that those who have reached the arhatship, their spiritual faculties cannot be compared to the spiritual faculties of the Buddhas and the fully awakened Buddhas. So it depends on the power of the Buddhas, the power of the arhats, and the level of purity. So for those people who have reached a state of meditative absorption with wisdom, not the kind of meditative absorption that you end up for thousands of years in absorption. No, that is not the kind of absorption we're talking about. We're talking about absorption with wisdom. The kind of wisdom that you will see all dharmas are perfectly complete. Then those kind of people with wisdom, with fully awakened wisdom, then that kind of fully awakened wisdom can be combined with the spiritual faculties so that they are no contradictory to the real dharmas. So if they have wisdom in order to transcend the three worlds, then we can believe in them. But if they try to train themselves so that they have the spiritual faculties, so that they can transform water into fire, fire into water, but that's not really ultimate wisdom. If you reach a certain state of ultimate wisdom and then the spiritual faculties naturally emerge, then that means that this person actually attained realization. But if you practice spiritual faculties, or you practice spiritual abilities in order to help people in this world to become rich, to become wealthy, then that is not the truth. Because if you have spiritual faculties, well, actually, in the Diamond Sutra has said it. Even if you teach your student to have spiritual faculties, then it's not as cannot be compared to someone who's teaching their students 4 lines in the Diamond Sutras, when the sutra is saying that, oh, this is not it, but it is actually it, so that's why it is it. So this is something that is profound. So that's why the Zen masters are actually very tough when they see other people using their spiritual faculties. So there was one master who saw on his way or on his road, he saw an appearance of a being based on that person's spiritual abilities. So then Zen Master Huang Ba saw him, and then the other guy flew away across the river. And then that guy asked Zen Master, why did it take you so long to cross the river? And Master Huang Ba said, how long did it take you to practice it so that you can fly across the river? So the other guy said, oh, it took me 40 years to practice this. So then Master Huang Ba said, oh, it took you 40 years, but it only took me 2 cents. So for those people with the ultimate view, they don't care about the spiritual abilities or spiritual supernatural powers. So the ultimate right view is what is most profound. So regarding spiritual abilities or spiritual attainments, the Zen masters do not respect those spiritual powers. Only when you have wisdom that I would respect you. Even if you smash me into dust particles and you ask me again, I would answer the same, I would give you the same answer. If you have wisdom, ultimate wisdom, transcendental wisdom, then I would respect you. But other than that, your spiritual powers mean nothing to me. So here in the next sentence, it says that the virtues of their deeds are carried out without striving, without elaboration, in accordance with their free will. So So it is true because, you know, we don't give rise to thoughts anymore. We can do a lot of things without without having elaboration, without having mental elaboration. Well, many times when we have to perform some activities, then we have to use the view of the mundane world. But if we're talking about the Dharma, you know, we don't strive for anything. We do not compare. We don't contrast. We don't, you know, try to make comparison. Oh, this is good. This is bad. Oh no! Talking about the Dharma, you can go on talking, you know, from morning until nighttime without any interruption. So with the kind of knowledge, you are able to withdraw, you know, just a little bit of knowledge here, a little bit of knowledge there from your ocean of knowledge in order to give teaching. So I used to wonder, how did the Buddha give teaching? Because if the Buddha had to talk about giving teaching about the discourses, that means that he had to move his to be moved mentally in order to come up with all these discourses. But actually no, because now we understand that actually everything comes from the function of the mind. And the function of the mind comes from the nature of the mind. So there's no need for you to move your brain in order to perform or to give discourses. So now it is very difficult for you to understand. But then, you know, some of the scientists can come and measure the heads of those people who continue to talk without elaboration. So they can see that actually that person who's realized and who's giving a discourse, a Dharma discourse, without having anything being moved in their brain. So the Zen masters always answer immediately and swiftly without having to move their brain, because they already are beyond the level of the brain. They are beyond the level of the consciousness. They do not elaborate anymore. And so here it says very nicely how they do not strive for anything. They do not elaborate or create anything, but they continue to perform all the deeds to benefit the sentient beings. And why do they perform the deeds? Because that comes from their mind of compassion. And once they are enlightened, then their compassion and their love pervades everything, so that they want to cultivate the sentient beings. So compassion doesn't mean that something that it emerges, but it is actually a living force of all the enlightening beings. And whoever the enlightening being touches upon, it means that the enlightening beings want to release them from the suffering and grant them the happiness. So from an endless ocean of energy, of the spiritual powers, of the spiritual attainment, they use that to benefit the sentient beings. They don't just use that from their little brains or their little minds. The brains, and the brains are actually very small. So it is something very small. It is minuscule. It doesn't matter how rich you are. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are, how powerful you are in the mundane sense. Is actually very, very small. And if you're talking about attaining in the worldly sense, it is so minuscule. It is so insignificant. So we were talking about how we are looking at something with our eyes, right? So we can see things within 100 to 200 meters, right? And we could see something as small as the palm of our hand. And then we could also see the tip of the leaf that is far away. And then 300 meters or 400 meters away, then you can only see something that's either yellow or green. But once you transcend your physical bodies, then you'll be able to see things beyond a billion kilometers. Even if an ant is moving, you'll be able to see that ant too. Why? Because their energy is vast. Once they transcend their bodies, then their view is vast, their ability is vast, their energy is vast, so that's why they'll be able to see everything. And once they go beyond that state of being, then everything will become so small to them. Then they would see the earth itself. It's just like a tiny dot that's being hung on the tip of the hair, a piece of hair. A strain of hair. So at that moment, they'll be able to see everything that pervades countless planets, countless cosmos. You don't need to travel on the airplane in order to see everything. So many things that they see within those cosmos are countless times more precious than whatever we see in this world. So when we're talking about precious horses, precious treasures, precious elephants, oh, it's truly so precious, because once they mount on the precious elephant, for example, then they are able to carry themselves from one dot in the cosmos to go to another dot in another cosmos. So here we're talking about all the wheel-turning kings. Their powers are so great. When we're talking about the wisdom of the enlightened beings, they do not pay attention to the mundane worlds or the mundane treasures in the mundane sphere. So physical materials are not something that they want to pay attention to, because the merits that they have gathered are all beyond this world. So they can use their merits for countless lifetimes without extinction. So if they take birth in this world, then they would bring the merits enough for the beings in this world so that they can benefit the beings in that specific world. But for example, if they go to the God's realm, for example, then it would be different. If they go to the realms of the saints, then it would also be different. And if they reach the state of the highest state of mental realization, then we reach a state of vast cosmos that we cannot really understand or perceive with our little brains. So they would never be attached to little things in the mundane senses. But if they appear in this world, then people may look at them and say, oh, they are just like ordinary people. They are just so ordinary, just like any of us. But no, it is because they have to take birth and take the form of the beings in this realm. Then they have to do activities, they have to perform activities in the same way as other mundane or ordinary beings, but they are uncreated, unelaborated. And sometimes they could see that or think that they are no different than the ordinary beings, and they are also being attached. But actually, they are non-attached whatsoever. So it's actually something that is very profound, and only those who actually understand them are those who are also reach that certain level of realization. So their wisdom, the wisdom of the enlightened beings, are never to do anything but to cultivate the sentient beings, to deliver the sentient beings. And if those beings who can use all the enlightening skills, all the expedient skills to cultivate sentient beings without being attached to any of the expedient means, without creating the expedient means or having thoughts arise about those expedient means, without having to let the thoughts emerge or create the thoughts in order to perform the expedient means. So actually, if you want to maintain in the higher realms, then you can, remain there. But once you enter the lower realms, then of course you have to merge with the beings in that realm so that you can perform the activities. But if you if you want to remain in the higher state without going down to the lower realms, then if they are in that mental state of the mind, then they have no created thoughts, they have no more elaboration, they are no longer able to let the thoughts emerge. So it's called a state of uncreated or elaboration. And if you live with beings in this realm, you cannot perform anything in a state of unelaboration. But if leave it to them, they will continue to remain in the state of unelaboration. So for example, if they are now in this world, right? If they don't pay attention to it, then they may not be able to see they cannot see all the beings in the Sangha. But once they are in, they have the intention to see, then they will be able to see everywhere, throughout the cosmos. Except they cannot see their they cannot see their master when they are in the state of ultimate absorption. Yeah, why is it so? Because their master would manifest the physical body so that the physical eyes can see. But once they reach the state of non-physical, then they will not be able to see the physical of their masters. So if we want to make offering, an ordinary being wants to make offering, then we have to tell the ordinary beings, oh, your master is right over there. But beyond that, if you are in a state of uncreation, then even the gods will not be able to see you. So once you reach a state of uncreation, unelaboration, then you would reach a state of signlessness. So they continue to do many things, to do countless things in the worldly realms, but actually they respect all the karmic causes, and wherever they live, their realms will become pure, because they do countless things to benefit sentient beings. So this is something that is very interesting. They do not have any creative thoughts, because everything becomes a function of the wisdom. Everything is actually the immeasurable function of the wisdom. So you have to reach a certain level, the level of prajna paramita. In that state of prajna paramita, there's nothing in there, but everything is in there. There's no need for you to think of anything. You will reach a point where you enter deep meditative absorption, and your thoughts are extinct, and your comparisons and your contrasts are completely extinct, become extinct. Then we will be completely locked, and the consciousness doesn't work anymore. Then the physical body doesn't work anymore, meaning that they are beyond all of that. And if they are in the midst of the road, even a car try to hit you, it won't be able to touch you. And before I was talking about one of the masters, how he turned himself upside down, and no one was able to touch him, and he passed away in that state of the mind, in that physical posture. So once you reach that state of the mind, you become so solid, mentally firm, mentally grounded, that no one could teach you, could hit you. So until they exit the absorption. So if you practice many times, yeah, actually, for these enlightening beings, when we're talking about falling into the state of absolute absorption, like everything happens very suddenly, and then at that moment they feel like, oh, this whole cosmos becomes so solid. The mind and the body become so solid, even as if the wind was so strong, and you have your long hair, and even your long hair becomes so solid and nothing can touch it. So there's no need for you to sit in order to attain meditative absorption, but at that moment things will happen so that everything will swiftly and suddenly become solidified. Your body and your mind all become solidified, and then once you are able to exit that state of the mind or state of meditative absorption, then all the individual thinking become extinct, and then all the karmas are being able to be extinct very swiftly. Especially for those people who are able to enter the nature of the mind somewhat, then they always try to go up in the mountains. So if they go to the mountains, because they can continue to cultivate it. But if they go down to the market and live in the markets, then maybe they will be affected and are being taken away. So there was one Zen master who stayed in the mountains for 42 years. And because if you stay in the mountains like that, you will be able to mentally solidify yourself. And Zen master Lam Te also stayed in the mountains for 16 years. So and because he had to go, he had to travel everywhere to benefit beings, and then it took him 16 years. So actually, you really need a moment or a period of time so that you can cultivate yourself. So for all the practitioners who have first been able to go beyond the 5 aggregates, then it will take them a much longer time, because somebody who has already been able to transcend the 5 aggregates, then there's no way that they can regress. But how long will it take for them to be able to come back to help the sentient beings? It is the aspiration, the strength of the aspiration. And if they have the conducive environment, then everything can happen very swiftly and conducively. Otherwise, it may take 30 years, and then after their full enlightenment, then it may take them a long time to even just to give one discourse, and then they may pass away. And if they continue to remain, when they enter meditative absorption, they don't just benefit the sentient beings in this world, but sentient beings throughout the worlds, throughout the realms. And countless benefits countless beings will be able to benefit. They don't need to give these courses, but all the beings will be able to benefit because their auras will be so radiant, so luminous that even the beings in the God's realm will be able to benefit. Because all the beings from all the realms will be able to benefit greatly, especially well, not especially, but except the beings in our human worlds, and they were not able to perceive the purity of those people who have reached a state of transcendental. So if you teach for the living beings, and the living beings will be able to perceive it, but if you teach for the non-physical beings, then the non-physical beings will be able to perceive or to benefit from the non-physical or non-verbal discourses. So if they enter deep meditative absorption, then maybe the whole sky would be radiant and luminous. So other than the brilliant auras, countless beings will come to your place to praise you or to congratulate you or to show appreciation to you, because there are many non-physical beings who are being stuck somewhere, and if an enlightened being walk across that area, then they'll be able to touch the words of the non-physical beings and somehow were able to liberate them. So they were able to eradicate the sufferings of those beings in those realms. So for example, now we are living in this house, right? And if somebody walks into our house, we will see it. And then if another person walks into the house, and we will see it. And in their realms are just like that. So then, so if an enlightened beings walk across and enters their realms, then those beings see the enlightening beings, then immediately their mental awareness or the mental realization progress very swiftly, and then they were able to move up to another mental stage, or move out of the stages of obstruction. So that's why they would come to the enlightening beings to pay respect to the enlightening beings and to show appreciation to the enlightening beings. So there's no need for a manager, just as we have in this world. But for example, in such a realm, if somebody was born or somebody attained a certain level of enlightening realization, then all the beings in that world will be able to recognize. And due to the unobstruction of the enlightening beings, then all those obstructed beings would be able to transcend and then be cared or be delivered to another world. So it is due to the power of this enlightening beings that they were able to transcend. So this is a discourse, a non-verbal discourse. So here we're talking about 8 billion people in this world, right? But that's not too many. Because if you are in deep meditative absorption and you go beyond the God's realm and you reach the realms of the four gods, then the beings are countless, and so countless that they're just like maybe 1 billion times more than the beings in our human worlds. So each of their residence is just like a palace, a huge palace. So actually the palaces that we see here in this human world, they copy the models of the palaces in the God's realm, because many of those beings from the God's realm come down to the human world. So that's why they design and they draw up palaces that are similar to the God's realm. Especially those people who live in the middle of the God's realm, their palaces are so magnificent. They are incredible. They don't live in tiny houses like us. When we're saying that they live in the middle of a realm, their houses are magnificent, huge, vast, are beyond imagination, and they are much larger than houses that are being built in the perimeters. Just like houses in the perimeters in our realms, you know, they are much bigger too, right? So actually, for beings in the realm of signlessness, well, we're talking about someone in the Tushita heaven. So someone in the Tushita heaven has requested the Buddha to come. Would the Buddha need to walk there to the Tushita heaven? Oh no. Well, if the Tushita God prepared to request the Buddha to arrive there, so the Buddha already knew about it the moment Buddha attained enlightenment. He realized at that moment that yes, maybe 20, 30 years from now, someone from the Tushita heaven would invite me to come, because at the moment of enlightenment, all the past, the present, and the futures would all emerge at the same time, so that the Buddha would see very clearly, as if it is happening right now. Everything emerges at the exact same time. So it doesn't appear, you know, in a consecutive order. No, countless things, myriads of things will emerge at the same time, all at once. But the order is it's so clear. That and nothing gets mixed up. If we can think of something within a second, then we consider that being very swift already, right? But no, in that state of the mind, billions and billions of things would show up or would emerge without having the order mixed up. So that is the state of the mind of somebody who is in a state of unelaboration. So for people who remain in a state of unelaboration, they are able to perform activities that are beyond our imagination. So for us, we do charity work, for example, but we have to establish our thinking. We have to make elaboration. But that is actually very small compared to people who are in the state of unelaboration. So then that's the same as when the king asked our patriarch Bodhidharma, I have benefited countless temples, benefited countless monks and nuns. Is there any merit for me? And Bodhidharma said, no, nothing, none. It is because the king had to rely on his elaborated thinking in order to perform his activities. But for people who have already attained an enlightenment, they do not rest in the state of elaboration in order to benefit sentient beings. And that's why their merits are so vast. And now we're talking about, for example, for people who have already passed away, actually, they have already passed away, but they are very free due to their good karmas. They can move back and forth without any obstruction at their free will. So if you can see all those beings within our Sangha, within this hall, you would see countless of them. They actually they move at will. They move at their free will, but we cannot see them, right? But they are able to connect with our vibration, with our mental vibrations, with the vibrations from our brains, that they'll be able to listen and they'll be able to understand. They have just gone beyond the physical bodies, but they are not able to take rebirths yet. So whatever we can hear, they can also hear. But within that realm, everything has great order within that realm. It's not just like in our world. So within our space, there are countless of beings like that, like millions and billions of beings like that. But actually, it's actually very interesting because there are the Dharma protectors who guide these beings. If they're sitting here and they're listening to the Buddha Dharmas and they try to stand up, then the Dharma protectors would hit their heads and tell them to sit down. So they listen to the Dharma teaching in a very orderly fashion. So if you go into those realms, then there are principles that you need to follow, very strict principles that you have to follow. You have to follow everything. And when you attend the Dharma teachings, then it's not just like in this house right here, but when a Buddha Dharma discourse is being organized, then actually it is very vast. It will benefit countless of beings. So it is according to the aspiration of the Dharma teachers. So it can cover many beings from many levels, like in the God's realm, in the human worlds, in the non-human worlds. It depends on the aspiration of the teachers. And so the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas do this kind of work continuously. And of course, we make prostration to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas to accumulate merits. But in regards to the enlightening activities performed by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, there's no way that we can imagine or fathom. So in the Lotus Sutras, we're talking about how the Bodhisattvas help sentient beings to gain enlightenment and to grant blessings and grant happiness and grant everything that the beings need. But that is not it's not even close to. But that even cannot be compared to what is described here in the Avatamsaka Sutra of somebody who is in a state of unelaboration and benefits sentient beings. Because once you attain the state of unelaboration, their wisdom is profound, and the illumination that is radiated from their wisdom will be able to transform and deliver countless beings in countless worlds around them. So what we are listening to now is actually very limited, because we are being limited with our karmic deeds or our karmic causes. But in the other worlds, because they are not being trapped in the physical bodies, for example, they are not in the physical bodies, they are non-physical, then if they give rise to the appropriate aspiration, then they'll be able to, leap out of their realms and be transformative and transcendental right away. And many of them are being stuck in their realms. But if there is one enlightening being whose luminosity radiates everywhere into the non-physical world, then the non-physical beings be able to touch the radiance and the light of the enlightening beings and be transformed and be delivered right away. So when we are talking about the tradition of giving discourses, then beings in the higher realms the higher realms they are in, the higher mentality people have, then they'll be able to transform more quickly. But for us, sometimes we are ordinary. Because we are so ordinary, we cannot, we listen to the teaching, but we cannot follow through. But regarding those beings who are being stuck in the non-physical realms, or for the people who are being stuck in the meditative absorption, then they would rely on the power of the light, the power of the radiance and the luminosity of an enlightening being to push them through the obstruction, so that they can transcend and go beyond their obstruction. So when we talk about the realm of uncreation or unelaboration of the great bodhisattvas, it's actually beyond anything that we can fathom. We cannot use our heads to understand about that. And all the great bodhisattvas always remain in the state of unelaboration to benefit sentient beings. There are many realms where they only enter meditative absorption. And when we reach that realm of meditative absorption, well, some of us also enter meditative absorption, but there are states of being where people only do nothing, or people do nothing but enter meditative absorption. And so when you are in that state of being and you enter that state of meditative absorption, then there's no need for you to use verbal, to be verbal in order to elucidate other sentient beings. So for beings who meditate in those realms of meditative absorption, for example, the teacher is able to radiate, and the radiance from them would be able to touch other students who are in meditative absorption as well. And so the way that they use their light and their radiance to benefit or to support practitioners in that realm, then it's actually very interesting. They use their light to support each other. So for example, there's one teacher in the first level, then and that teacher has 100 students. Then when that teacher enters a meditative absorption, then he is able to help 100 students, and then 100 students will be able to help 100,000 of students in a lower realm, and then hundreds of thousands of students in a lower realm will be able to perform, countless beings in a lower realms. So here it's a state of unelaboration. You do not need to elaborate anything, or like elaborate your thinking, or elaborate your mind, or elaborate your brain. We do not need to move anything in order to perform beneficial activities, because we have to think in order to perform, and then we need to say things that are useful, that are skillful. Well, that is what we're talking about in our human world. But the higher level of mental realization we are, the higher our level of unelaboration, and the benefits are just so immeasurable. So if we practice correctly, according to the mental absorption, according to the Buddha Dharma, then we would be able to attain high realization very swiftly, because if we have such strong aspiration, and we have such strong meditative absorption, then you'll be able to reach the higher realm very swiftly. So if we enter meditative absorption and our wisdom radiates light, then everything becomes stronger and stronger, and then you'll be able to be moved up and upward. And then once you are able to gather gather, our mental power and mental aspiration and meditative absorption, then you'll be able to progress very quick and very fast from one level to the next, from one day to the next day, very swiftly. So this is the kind of unobstruction that you'll be able to reach based on the existence of those people who are in the state of unelaboration. So we talk about unelaboration in the past and non-aspiration in the past, but we were not able to fully explain about this. And once we talk about unelaboration, then it is just so beyond, because the unelaborated power pervades the whole cosmos. But for us, because we base everything, we base our action on every thought, every small thinking, so everything becomes very slow for us. So whatever we do in this world is actually very small, very insignificant. Even if we are able to cultivate one person and that person is able to gain enlightenment, then that too is still very small. But if you are in a state of unelaboration, then even just one small movement of them can affect the whole cosmos and can affect countless beings. So there, for example, in this world of ours, for many people who have transcended the 5 aggregates or have actually passed away and are no longer being bound in the 5 aggregates, then even though they are not bound in the 5 aggregates, but they are not able to take rebirth. And they're still Mr. Nguyên Văn A. It just means that they are no longer in their physical bodies and they're so happy. So no need for you to request for your parents to be reborn in any kind of pure realm, but to pray for them so that they can be relieved from their physical bodies. They are no longer being attached in the physical bodies. Just pray for them to be free, to be able to move and to travel at free will. So for example, after you pass away and then you already we have registered them to be in the Sangha of Long Hương Temple to listen to the Buddha Dharma teachings. For example, if right now they are in the Americas or they are somewhere in Europe, but once we called out their names, then immediately they will go back. They will go back to the teaching hall of Long Hương Temple. Well, there are free will. And there are, spirits who, wander around the world. But then if they're supposed to be staying at the Long Hương temples, then we ring the bell, and then they have to come back to this monastery to listen to the teachings. So they are actually very happy. And they are actually very happy traveling around. But once they hear the bell, then they have to return to the teaching hall and make prostration and follow the principles very strictly. So for us in the physical world, sometimes the nuns and the monks hear the bells and they still don't want to go to the teaching hall or to come to the teaching hall to meditation. But in the non-physical, in the physical worlds, they are very free, they are very happy, they can travel at will from one world to another. But if you have already the Dharma protectors already register your name to be students of the Long Hương Temple, for example, then you would return to the teaching hall when you are supposed to. They follow the principles and the laws of those words very strictly. So actually, everything moves within this cosmos due to the power of the enlightening beings. the power of the cosmos. And for those masters who have the Dharma powers, the power of I guess the power of transformation is very strong. And so for somebody who is teaching a discourse, if somebody who's it's just the same sentence and it's the same Dharma discourse, but somebody who has a Dharma power would be able to transform, but somebody else who's giving the same discourse just memorize something and just say something out of memorization, then that person would not be able to transform anyone. So this is a mental power. It's actually very, very powerful. For example, if you listen to someone, someone who is crying, out of desperation, and the master may not be able to say anything. The master may just remain silent, but on the other hand, the other person stops crying. So you don't need to say, oh, please don't cry, everything will go away. There's no need for you to say anything. The master would just gather his mental strength, and then on the other line, the student will stop crying, and tears will stop flowing. So for people who have already attained enlightenment and they have the strength of mentality or spirituality, they do not need to say anything. They do not need to verbally say anything. So for example, if somebody is being stuck somewhere and is going through difficulties, and the masters, all they need to do is to turn their minds toward that person, and then immediately the other person becomes unobstructed. And then you may just make prostration and say, oh, thank you so much, Buddha, you have helped me. But it may be not the Buddha, but it actually may your own masters who is helping you to try to help you to become unobstructed. So this is the kind of Dharma power that is beyond imagination. But if you practice for a long time, then you'll be able to sense of this. So for example, if you see a student who has practiced this for a long time, and he or she is being stuck or being obstructed, then the teacher, there's no need for the teacher to say anything. All for the teacher is to be able to see that and to turn his mind toward that, and no, there's no need for the teachers to do that. So then you may think that, oh, I need to go to the emergency room because I cannot breathe. But the master may be to collect his mental ability and turn the mind toward that student, and already the student feels unobstructed, and he or she can breathe again. So actually uncreation or uncreated strength. So it's unelaboration, but the strength of the vigor is also unbelievable. So here it says that at the unelaborated strength, in accordance with their free will, their free will, they have the free will, and they have the aspiration to liberate us. So there's nothing that can stop the power of free will, because they are unelaborated. Their power cannot be affected by anything. However much their compassion is, they'll be able to use their strength to liberate that many sentient beings. So we have heard about unelaboration in the past, but we don't truly understand this. So for example, we did not tell our teacher about something, But for example, we feel obstructed, then we turn our minds toward our teachers and we pray, oh teacher, we supplicate, oh teacher, please help me. Don't say that the teachers don't know about it, but when you turn your minds toward the teachers, then you'll be able to receive the vigor of unelaboration, the unelaborated strength and power from your teacher. So, for example, if you feel obstructed and you turn your mind toward the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and you supplicate and you say, oh, please, please help me, and your faith is so strong,